Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us today. We have an exciting news story to share, so let's get started. As I grasped the door handle, I felt my palms grow sweaty with nervousness, but I pushed the door open and stepped into a vibrant and bustling space. A chair scraping against the tile caught my attention, sending chills down my spine. I turned towards the sound and suddenly felt a searing impact on my chest. Stumbling back, I steadied myself to understand the situation unfolding before me. Standing before me was Harold Blake, his face stern as he aimed a much larger gun than expected at me. Though his words were drowned out by the ringing in my ears, his menacing intentions were unmistakable. In a sudden frenzy, he raised the gun higher and took a menacing step towards me, his facial expression contorting into a cruel grin. But in an instant, his expression vanished, as did his entire countenance. "Oh my God, Dave, you've been shot," Les Williams cried out, rushing to my side and carefully guiding me to a nearby chair. Les, who was the husband of my wife's cousin and a detective in the local police force, proved to be a kind-hearted and brave individual. Witnessing his actions in that moment only furthered my admiration for him. As Harold Blake lay motionless on the floor, his eyes staring blankly ahead, Les swiftly dealt a strong blow to Blake's face, showcasing his prowess. Acting quickly and decisively, Les grabbed paper napkins and applied pressure to my chest, urgently instructing the bartender to call for an ambulance. As my head spun and I struggled to stay conscious, the wooden chair felt unsteady beneath me. Coming to my aid, the man seated next to Les lifted me carefully under the arms and gently lowered me to the floor. In a hushed tone, Les directed another individual to ensure that the ambulance was called promptly, expressing the urgency of the situation to avoid a fatal outcome. I felt a strong sense of gratitude for the support and swift action taken by those around me in that critical moment. I managed to croak out before blacking out. When awareness slowly returned to me, the familiar scents and sounds of the hospital signaled my surroundings. Overwhelmed by drowsiness and a sharp pain in my chest, I opted to keep my eyes closed and eavesdrop on the hushed conversations around me. "Mom, who is Harold Blake?" demanded my daughter Serena, her voice tense. "I know he's a colleague at your workplace, but why would he shoot Dad? Did you or Dad have any issues with him?" Shannon, my dear wife, sighed before replying, "He's been harassing me ever since that conference in Las Vegas 2 weeks ago. I never realized he was capable of such violence." "Serena, I swear I had no idea." Serena interrupted firmly. "That doesn't explain everything. Why was he bothering you after the trip? You told me you had a great time with Janice Long and the new girl from accounting. Why on earth did he shoot Dad? Tell me you're not keeping something from me. Are you having an affair with him? Are you being unfaithful to Dad?" The accusation hung in the air, and Shannon's response was lost in the overwhelming weight of the truth. I lay in bed, listening, hoping that Serena meant Blake and not me. I wouldn't be surprised if Shannon asked Serena which specific person she was referencing. Shannon recalled that Blake ended up at the seminar to fill in for Bill Lane when his wife fell ill, and Bill couldn't attend. I was unaware that Blake was even in Vegas until I returned home. Shannon questioned why Blake bothered me if I didn't know he was there and what he wanted. I revealed that he wanted me to sleep with him and attempted to blackmail me, but I refused. Shannon expressed frustration, feeling annoyed by my vague responses and the lack of information I provided. She highlighted that her father is in the hospital recovering from a gunshot wound caused by my coworker, who allegedly tried to blackmail me for sex. Shannon emphasized the need for straightforward answers to the obvious questions arising from the situation. A confident female voice asked me, along with Mrs. Grant, my colleague, to join them to answer a few questions regarding today's incident. Serena muttered her hopes for the police to have better luck in understanding the nature of the shootout. As the door closed, I cautiously opened one eye and saw Serena, clearly emotional and trying to hold back tears. Expressing concern, I assured her that I would recover soon. Surprised and relieved, Serena exclaimed that I was awake. She explained that we were told I was out of danger, and that everything would be okay. Serena then left briefly, but returned shortly after with a middle-aged nurse in tow with a smile. She handed me a glass of ice water with a straw and quickly assessed my condition for any visible issues. "I will inform the doctor that you are awake and responsive, Mr. Grant. It's great to see you improving. You will be discharged soon," she said before leaving the room. "Can you recall what happened?" Serena inquired. "Are you in a lot of pain?" "Someone shot me." "It's excruciating," I replied. "Do you know why that person wanted to harm you?" "No idea. He's deceased. The authorities are looking into it. They are speaking with Mom at the moment," Serena informed. "Have you had any conflicts with Harold Blake?" "Harold Blake?" I echoed. "I vaguely remember seeing him once at your mom's work function. I doubt we exchanged words. He was the one who shot me. He fired a .38 caliber bullet at you, narrowly missing your heart but grazing your lung. He was about to fire again, but luckily Luz Williams intervened and stopped him. You were fortunate that Luz was there," Serena explained. "Yeah, I'm incredibly lucky," I responded sarcastically. "Reed, was Mom upset when she found out I got shot?" Serena asked. "Are you kidding?" "She was devastated. I had to drive her here and she cried the whole way," Reed replied. "Why are you asking about this? You know Mom loves you. Is there something going on that I don't know about?" "It seems like a lot is happening that none of us know about," I responded. "The obvious question is, why did that idiot try to kill me? And the second important question, does Mom have any involvement in why he shot me?" Serena explained. She says he was trying to blackmail her into having sex with him. She didn't mention that he had leverage over her to make him believe she would give in. "If your mother is lying to me, I will leave her so quickly it will make her head spin. I've been faithful our entire marriage and won't tolerate any infidelity," I stated firmly. Reed added, "You have always been clear about loyalty, Dad. Mom knows how you feel, and I don't believe she would ever betray you." "Mom still watches closely," Serena confirmed, reassuring that she would never be with someone like Harold Blake. However, her attempt to cheer me up fell flat. Serena quickly realized her mistake and tried to clarify her intentions, assuring that if Mom were to ever stray, it would only be with someone much better than Harold Blake. But I urged her to stop digging herself deeper. Just then, Shannon entered the room, expressing her relief that I was awake. Confused, I asked why she would worry about me. Shannon was shocked by my nonchalant mention of being shot, and she began to sob, revealing that the attack was possibly due to something she had disclosed. He informed him that if he continued to bother me, he would face consequences, including physical altercation. He had videos of me in compromising situations and believed that I would give in to his advances rather than have him show those videos to you. In a misguided attempt to deter him, I mentioned that you, Dave, would step in and confront him. I didn't realize the extent of his instability. He retaliated by threatening to shoot you, claiming he had a permit to carry a powerful .38 caliber weapon and would use it if you approached him aggressively. Initially, he mentioned owning a Ruger .22 caliber gun, which I dismissed. I warned him that you would retaliate if he ever attacked you. Subsequently, he revealed that he acquired the .38 caliber gun as soon as the waiting period ended. To recap, this individual threatened to shoot me with his .22 caliber gun if I confronted him, prompting you to question the efficacy of such a weapon to harm me. Take your advice seriously and arm yourself with a larger firearm. Why did you advise him to do that without informing me? Shannon disclosed I was grilled by the police about the same thing. I was only trying to deter him from causing you harm, she explained. I thought emphasizing your strength would make him back off. I never imagined he would go out and purchase a bigger weapon. Serena interjected, I would never purposely provoke a situation where someone could harm you, Mom. You still haven't explained what incriminating videos he possessed and how he obtained them. What did you do? She demanded. The new girl who joined us at the seminar was younger and more carefree than Janice and me. In the scorching Vegas heat, she suggested visiting a private club with an Olympic-sized pool. I won't ask any more questions, Mom, Serena declared. It's clear there's a lot more to this story, especially about that private club. Members and guests at the club were either naked or at least topless. It's embarrassing to admit, but Janice and I decided to visit the club after our seminar in Las Vegas. Initially, we were nervous, but after about 30 minutes, we started feeling comfortable being topless around others. Unbeknownst to me, Harold Blake had a connection at the club and violated the rules by secretly recording Janice and me without our consent. When we returned from Vegas, he sent me these unauthorized photos via email, threatening to share them with Dave, my parents, and anyone else he could find contact information for. Janice later revealed that he had done the same to her. In his email, he falsely implied that Janice and I had engaged in multiple intimate encounters in Vegas, hoping to manipulate us into repeating the situation. This is the reason I didn't show you Dave the email. I was afraid you might believe the false narrative. Rest assured, it is entirely untrue. I would never betray your trust. Shannon's revelations about the events in Vegas that led to my injury left me stunned. How could I have been so oblivious? The realization made me break into a sweat. A tall stranger entered the room and, with a polite tone, requested both individuals to vacate. "I'm sorry, but I must ask both of you to leave," he said, pointing out the need for a calm and stress-free environment for the patient. The stranger indicated that the patient, likely Serena's father or husband, would probably be ready to go home in a day or two if his recovery proceeded as anticipated. Serena thanked Dr. Rains for the update and escorted her mother out of the room. Meanwhile, Serena mentioned that the bullet's trajectory had been fortunate, leading to a more promising recovery. As Serena left, a doctor had been examining her wound before she drifted off to sleep. Upon waking up, she noticed a police officer and a plainclothes detective in the room. The officer identified himself as Officer Hastings and introduced the detective as Detective Allen, expressing their intention to ask questions about the incident that led to the surgery. Mr. Bell, who had limited knowledge about the events, agreed to cooperate and answer their queries, despite feeling somewhat fatigued. "I think it might be faster if you gave us a summary of what happened," Detective Allen suggested, as I recounted everything from the pub to waking up in the hospital. "Did you have any prior interaction with Harold Blake before the incident?" the detective inquired. I shook my head. "Have you seen the emails he sent to your wife? She mentioned that you aren't tech-savvy and don't know her password," the detective continued. "Shannon is correct. I'm not tech-savvy and she's never shared her passwords with me," I responded. The detective's gentle questioning made it easier for me. "Did he send any emails indicating his intent to harm me?" I asked. "I can't disclose details we've gathered. We're piecing together the puzzle," Allen said, then asked about any prior interactions with Blake. I'd recalled seeing him once at Shannon's company event, but never engaging in conversation. His name was never mentioned, and they appeared content before leaving me to contemplate alone. I messed up badly. Shannon insisted that she never slept with that guy, and I believed her. She rarely lied, especially about important matters, and I could always tell if she was telling the truth. However, she didn't display her usual indicators when recounting how Blake had made advances towards her. I should have taken the time to go through all the new emails she had received from him before confronting him at his favorite bar, prepared for a potential threat. While a .22 caliber bullet can be lethal, it requires precise aim. I highly doubted that Blake would be so accurate and surgical in seeking revenge. Shannon had been my everything for 20 years of marriage. I loved her more than I ever thought possible. When she returned from her trip to Vegas, her behavior was somewhat off. It wasn't just one thing. A mixture of emotions enveloped me. After years of concealing details from Shannon, the most significant being my aptitude with computers, I began to feel uneasy. Despite using laptops proficiently at work, she remained oblivious to my skills. Remembering her email password from years ago, I discovered alarming messages from Harold Blake, containing topless videos of Shannon by the pool with others. Shock and disbelief engulfed me as I unearthed this unsettling revelation. Furthermore, stumbling upon revealing photos of Janice Long was unexpected. The situation left me more troubled by Shannon's vulnerability to Blake's advances than her topless escapades. Based on the wording of his emails, it appeared that Shannon had been intimate with him on multiple occasions. In response, she stated that there were threats made towards her, warning of consequences if she didn't comply with his demands. Despite the content of the emails, Shannon never confessed to any romantic involvement with him and did not address that aspect. She had been monitoring Blake's movements for nearly a week, noticing that he would consistently visit a particular pub on his way home. Feeling heartbroken at the thought of Shannon betraying him, the person considering revenge read about Blake possessing a concealed carry permit for a .22 caliber pistol, expressing readiness to use it if confronted. There was no mention of acquiring a larger firearm in the emails. The revenge plan was straightforward: to coincidentally enter the pub while Blake was present, staring at him until he felt uneasy and possibly brandished his weapon. If needed, the plan included a scenario where the person would pretend to draw a weapon from their pocket in response. However, it became apparent that the plan was too simplistic. I thought about how to respond as I felt cornered by the man with a .38 caliber gun. My initial instinct was to have him arrested and ensure he faced the maximum penalty for his actions. I strategized on what to do if he decided to shoot, planning to protect myself by covering my face with my hands and bending down to reduce the risk of being hit by stray bullets. Reflecting on the situation later, I realized my assumptions were off base. The man didn't make threats or wave the gun menacingly. He simply fired a shot at my chest without warning. I acknowledged the serious nature of a .38 caliber bullet compared to a .22 and understood the severity of the situation. I had initially thought about the potential threat posed by Shannon's lover and the impact it would have on her. I believed that her involvement with him could lead to my suffering or even death, which would deeply affect her. Despite her infidelity, I knew she still cared for me in her own way. The thought of her grappling with the consequences of my hospitalization or demise weighed heavily on me. I was convinced that revealing the truth about her affair would bring about significant emotional turmoil during the investigation. I found myself cast as the unwitting husband who had placed his trust in his wife, only to have things take a disastrous turn. The topless videos somehow ended up in the wrong hands, leading to Shannon's friends and family having an unintended glimpse into her private life. The potential fallout from this revelation included the risk of her being ostracized by those closest to her, which would undoubtedly cause her significant distress. Shannon cherished her relationships with her family members and mine. Family was a cornerstone of her life. As I confronted the mess that I had inadvertently created, I was faced with the daunting task of preventing Shannon from discovering the depths of my foolishness. In my misguided attempt to make her and her suspected lover suffer, I had put not only their lives but also mine in jeopardy. This crisis had me questioning my problem-solving abilities. As I grappled with how to avoid being labeled as the ultimate fool, my priority became finding a way to control the narrative to mitigate the harm caused. In the midst of this turmoil, Shannon and Serena paid me a surprise visit one afternoon. Serena appeared upbeat, unaware of the turmoil brewing beneath the surface. The next day, I was set to be released. Shannon appeared withdrawn and silent, indicating that my hasty plan had made an impact. She seemed subdued and on the verge of tears. To further the ruse, I feigned sleep, prompting them to shorten their visit. Contemplating the situation after their departure, I began devising a solution. It came as no surprise to me that Shannon had opted to go topless at a private club in Vegas for several reasons. Firstly, she was in excellent physical shape, boasting a well-proportioned, firm bust that she took pride in. Secondly, the influence of her friend Janice, who, like Shannon, possessed an impressive bust size that she showcased in videos I had viewed multiple times, played a role. Janice was eager for her natural assets to be admired by onlookers. Lastly, I had once overheard a conversation when I returned home early from work on a sultry Saturday morning. Shannon and Serena were lounging by the pool, seemingly engaged in an impromptu gathering. Alongside them were Serena's two closest friends, Beth and Amber, both clad in scanty bikinis, Shannon's younger sister Laura, and a couple of neighbors, both women in their 30s, were also present. I decided to listen in on their conversation before joining them with a small cooler of beer. Their topic of discussion was quite intriguing. They were talking about how they wished to travel far away to a beach where they could sunbathe topless without the risk of being recognized by family, friends, or colleagues. Serena and her two friends appeared particularly enthusiastic about the idea, expressing how exciting and memorable such an experience would be. I was taken aback when Shannon and Laura also voiced their agreement, discussing how refreshing it would be to break away from the conventional roles of suburban housewives. The conversation I overheard at the pool that day lingered in my mind as I drifted off to sleep. It seemed like Shannon might have a bit of an exhibitionist streak, prompting me to ponder whether this desire was common among women or just a unique characteristic of certain individuals embodying beauty, confidence, and the resources to chase their dreams. Serena and Shannon arrived at the hospital to escort me home. I was provided with a detailed list of prescribed medications and recipes to adhere to. Guidance on diet and exercise for the upcoming weeks was given, along with a commitment to see our family doctor regularly. Shannon assisted me as we entered the house, where I was greeted by a surprise gathering of close friends and family. Each individual shared their well wishes and support for my speedy recovery. I'd spent time greeting everyone, but as my energy dwindled, I settled into my beloved armchair to rest, eventually succumbing to sleep. Upon waking, I overheard a conversation that stirred my anger. It was evident that Shannon was being criticized by both my family and hers for her behavior in Las Vegas. The content of videos featuring her had circulated among our guests, causing tension. The conversation emphasized the inappropriateness of married women displaying bare breasts, particularly in public situations. Let me help you with that. In an unfamiliar place, Shannon's father admonished her, suggesting that she might as well get a tattoo indicating that she's available and easy. He warned her that behaving this way was asking for trouble and pointed out the unfortunate incident involving Dave. Jack's right, Shannon's father continued, prompting Shannon's grandfather to chime in with his disapproval as well. He emphasized the importance of setting a good example for Shannon's daughter, expressing disappointment in her behavior. Shannon stood there, tears streaming down her cheeks, trembling under the weight of the criticism. As I witnessed my wife being treated poorly, I could not stand the way our family was treating Shannon. Filled with anger, I couldn't help but speak up, demanding that everyone stop or leave the room. Approaching Shannon, I asked Jack whose house we were standing in. My father-in-law answered, "Well, it's your house, Dave," not masking his confusion. Enraged, I corrected him and asserted, "This house belongs to your daughter, who is also my wife and me." I criticized Jack for his unacceptable behavior and gave him 3 options: leave and never come back, disrespect me and face the consequences, or apologize to Shannon. Jack tried to explain, but I warned him that he was on thin ice and had no room for justification. When his father attempted to intervene, I shut him down, making it clear that no one speaks ill of Shannon in our home. Jack eventually realized his mistake and apologized to Shannon, acknowledging that he should respect her and defer to her in their house. He shouldn't have been there. "I'm sorry." Shannon rushed to her father and embraced him, while her mother Susan hugged me tightly. "That's how a man protects his wife." "You're a good man," I groaned involuntarily when Susan pressed against my wound, catching everyone's attention. "Grandma, I think your breasts were putting too much pressure on Dad's chest," Serena quipped. "Those girls have a way of turning men into jelly," Susan grumbled, the atmosphere shifting from chuckles to tension. "Shannon, I want to apologize before Dave kicks me out. I crossed the line. You've brought happiness to my son and given us a beautiful granddaughter," my father said. It seemed everyone had misunderstood my feelings about Shannon's antics in Vegas. In truth, I wouldn't have known about it if not for that scoundrel Harold Blake. As both fathers lectured Shannon, I had an epiphany. Because I loved her deeply and had come to understand her better than a few weeks ago, I planned to turn this situation around for the better, embracing the lemons and making lemonade. Joan Shannon's figure is stunning, and I invite anyone who has seen the videos of her topless to disagree with this observation. We take pride in her physique, as I believe that many attractive women such as Shannon are comfortable with exhibitionism. This trait is clearly evident in Shannon. When she mentioned her plans to visit Las Vegas, I suggested that she check out a club where she could go topless without any reservations. It excites me that other men appreciate looking at my wife. as long as I am the only one who gets to personally admire her beauty up close. If anyone wants to critique Shannon's enjoyment in Las Vegas, they should address me directly. Our decisions are made together based on what brings us happiness, not the opinions of acquaintances and family members. Shannon appeared surprised by my words, while Serena grinned and shared a knowing look with her mother, displaying their intimate nonverbal communication skills. The rest of the group seemed taken aback by my revelation. Their expressions, a mix of surprise and amusement, excitedly revealed that Shannon and I are embarking on a 2-week vacation to the island of Coco in August. Known for its clothing-optional beaches, we plan on returning with seamless tans. Dee encouraged any objections, inviting criticism of their choices. Serena supported the idea, envisioning a liberating experience for Mom and anticipating a protective role for Dad. Expressing gratitude for Serena's understanding, Dee looked forward to their upcoming adventure. Serena also reminded Dee of promises made to her and her siblings for future vacations. As I considered voicing concern about Serena going topless at the beach, I realized the possible consequences if my daughter were to go topless at the beach. I would have to support her to avoid being a hypocrite. As I thought about discussing the matter with her privately, I was conflicted about different possible scenarios, such as Beth and Amber going topless. While I was intrigued by the idea, I was concerned about Serena exposing her breasts. I briefly considered suggesting that this trip should be a romantic getaway for me and Shannon. However, before I could bring it up, Shannon's divorced and physically fit sister, Laura, asked to join us. I appreciated your support and for listening until the end. If you found this content engaging, please subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for our next video.